Well, they just keep getting longer. Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and today is radio drama number 9, or cutscene number 9 is probably the thumbnail as labeled them. But this is radio drama, I think number 9 or number 10, and this one I felt was important to listen to first before going into the campaign diary. Usually I would record the campaign diary, put that out first, and then put the radio drama to follow. But this one I think has to be listened to first, and I think that will help the campaign diary to see some of the decisions that were made Friday night, not just by the players, but by one specific enemy in particular. And so it's important that you kind of listen to this first. But anyway, this is the radio drama number 9, and this one actually, in the time span, in the time span, what am I listening? What's the word I'm looking for? I'll put it up here somewhere. Anyway, let's say the timeline. Oh my gosh, timeline. This cutscene or radio drama actually takes place between chapter 2 and chapter 3. So it's in order. This is not out of order. Like my Lost episode, which was I think the Fall of Linathan. That one's actually just forgot to be posted. This one actually does though in the timeline fall in between chapter 2 and chapter 3. So the characters have snuck out of the camp. They got out essentially, and they're on their way to Greenest. And this is what happens that night as they are leaving. And the camp now is alert and it's going out searching for them and whatnot. There's a lot that goes on in this particular scene. So there's 3 major scenes in this. The first scene is going to open up with a new introduction of an NPC. The second portion is going to concern Fulam, and the third portion of this scene is going to focus on Rezimir, Langdon Rosa, Fulam, and of course one of the NPCs that they've captured from our heroes, Cricket. And, if you've been following these radio dramas this far, then you know who everybody is. But just in case, I'll put some images up just to identify everybody. But this one in hindsight worked out really well. And it's been really difficult, in the middle of a move, trying to find time and energy and space to record this stuff. So I was actually surprised how it turned out. I was surprised by it's 7 minutes, like 7 minutes and 25 seconds or something like that. So they just kind of keep getting longer. It's not my intentions, of course, but in hindsight, this particular radio drama worked out really well, and it almost kind of foreshadowed things that night that I had no clue that was going to happen. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. This is going to be 7.5 minutes. Of course, no images. I'll put a few images up in the video, static images, of who is what and who's talking, those kinds of things. But if you've been following this far, then you'll know who everybody is. But anyway, tonight's radio drama is called "The Search for the Mooir." Moonlight shines down upon a remote part of the forest, its canopy scattering the light below as the fireflies populate the shadows, their nocturnal dance giving the landscape a feeling of enchantment. A small pond of water reflects the light from the half-moon above, appearing as a pool of radiant silver as dragonflies zip past, tapping the water delicately. Without warning, there is a flash of light that echoes with a thunderous boom across the glade. Packs of vermin crawling through the underbrush suddenly stop, their red eyes beaming, looking in all directions, alert and bewildered at the sudden disturbance. Just as the forest returns to its nocturnal activities, another discharge of light flashes, and abruptly the winds begin to howl, scattering the wildlife in all directions as the fierce bellows of energy continue. With a sudden arcane explosion, a small portal bursts to life, bathing the trees in soothing, vibrant, aquatic breeze. From the threshold, a fairy cautiously emerges. Her hair is blood red, and her thin, muscular frame is covered head to toe in radiant golden armor, with a broadsword in one hand and a golden shield in the other, ready for combat. Her emerald eyes that seem to shimmer in the moonlight sky take in her surroundings, a grim and eager expression upon her face. Then, in a swift and abrupt movement, she explodes through the forest at an incredible speed, off into the distance. Behind her, the portal flickers and closes as the life of the forest returns and the seabed of fireflies populate the trees once again. The distant light of the fairy's trail disintegrating into sparkling dust. In the dead of night, a group of mercenaries on horseback, led by Foulam, swiftly cross the grasslands. With torches in hand, they abruptly split up in several directions. Commands are shouted back and forth as they desperately scour the landscape in search of tracks. But the grasslands prove to be too thick and tangled to provide a trail of any kind. After their search turns up empty, they regroup. A few words are exchanged, and they swiftly return to the camp, empty-handed. In the darkness of a great cavernous dwelling, the female dragonborn priest, Rezimir, examines her prisoner once more. Her giant, lizard-like pupils staring into Cricket's glass prison, its reptilian eye examining her as smoke rises from the Fae's bloodied frame. With great effort, Cricket slowly raises her head to match eyes with her tormentor.
The Fae are far more resilient than I realized. Have you been sent from the wilds to thwart what we have built? Why have you come?
There is no answer. Cricket, with a look of disdain, merely spits blood at Rezimir, watching it drip down the sides of the glass.
Resilient and stubborn, it seems. You will answer me, Fae Devil, or the torment will never end.
The crystal erupts with arced lightning, scalding Cricket, her head snapping back in pain.
Why have you come? Who is your Mooir?
The lightning continues to crack and blast her frame, and then suddenly stops, as a distant and ghostly voice fills Rezimir's mind.
Someone approaches. Doozie.
Rezimir spins on her heels, sword in hand, and a spell crackling in her fingertips to face the coming threat. Langdadrosa comes to an abrupt stop, raising his hands.
Peace, Rezimir. It is only I and Foulam.
Rezimir, breathing deeply, extinguishes the spell and sheathes her sword. Langdadrosa lowers his hands as Foulam steps into view at his side.
What is it that you need?
Foulam steps forward and bows. My lord, the prisoners have escaped. There is no sign of them. They have also freed Lyosalan, and we believe he has escaped with them. Cricket's eyes look up in shock. Rezimir looks down to her, a sudden thought crossing her brow. Without warning, a branch of lightning exploding from her fingertips engulfs Foulam.
Incompetent! You have let puppers escape our grasp, including an informant who could lead to our demise. Do you not understand what is at stake?
Foulam hits the cavern floor, her skin baking, as Rezimir continues her wicked assault. Suddenly, Langdadrosa steps in.
Spare her, Rezimir. Foulam has been loyal.
Rezimir immediately stops the blistering assault and rests her hand upon the hilt of her sword. Langdadrosa steals a glance towards Foulam to make sure she's still alive, and faces Rezimir.
We understand what is at stake, but it would be unwise to destroy valuable assets now. I think the Red Wizards would agree.
Foulam whimpers in agony on the floor, coughing as a thick cloud of smoke escapes from under her armor. There is a moment of silence.
There is no more room for error. Call off your search and begin to evacuate the camp immediately. We must move quickly. Gather yourself, Frulam. And once the troops have been released, you will return here to the caverns. Both of you.
What about the prisoners?
Due to your carelessness, there is no time to spare. The eggs have been slow to hatch, and they need protection. You two will stand guard here until called for. No more risks will be taken. Now, be gone.
Langdodrosa bows and turns to Frulam, helping her to her feet, and slowly exits the chamber. Rezimir watches them for a moment longer, then turns to face Cricket.
You believe you will be freed. I see it in your eyes. They will not come for you, little one, for you will make a fine jewel to the crown of the Horde. The Great One will be pleased.
Okay, folks, and there you have it. That is the 7.5-minute radio drama for session 9 of our campaign. And of course, as you know, as you can see or hear, it involved a lot of key characters: Langdodrosa, Frulam, Rezimir. Now, if you were a player, both, right? A player in my campaign, you might want to just skip ahead at this point, maybe about a minute or so, because I'm going to spoil something. So I'll just give you a few seconds to, just bump ahead about a minute or so. Or you could just stop watching from this point, because now you've really kind of seen everything, right? So anyway, to move forward, there's a voice that, of course, Rezimir hears in this in the radio drama, and of course that is her sword. It's called Hausowin or something like that. These names I just never get right, but it's speaking to her, and of course this sword does have intelligence. Now the players don't know this, the characters don't know this, but that is part of the story. So I just felt like, hey, let's give this sword a voice. And I don't know if it's canon or not. I'm not really sure of exactly all the powers of this particular sword, but I felt like it must have some kind of mind connection that it can speak to whoever it is bonded with. So I kind of just brought that up a little bit. Matter of fact, I think there was another cutscene as well where I allude to previous ones for Rezimir, allude to her actually hearing a voice and reacting to it. And then, of course, that was the sword again, kind of giving her an idea or talking to her or alerting her to something that's going on. So that's it, guys. It's just another example, another radio drama that's, that is shaped by the players. That is also shaped, of course, by the book a little bit as well. But I'd say 85 to 90% of what goes on in these radio dramas is from the players. It's a reaction to what they've done. I don't think you can just, you could go to any book and just pull out stuff and begin to bring it to life. Yeah, that would probably work, but most likely, if you've been DMing as long as I have, your characters are going to change everything. So in some respects, it's not a good idea to create your radio dramas far in advance, all right? Unless you're at your opening episodes and you have all this exposition and different things you want to do. That to me is in a moment where it could work, but right about after that, you never know where it's going to end up. So I encourage you now, if you've listened to this radio drama, it was important that this one came out first. So the campaign diary makes a little more sense. So if you've watched this, I would encourage you now to go watch the campaign diary, which will explain how all this kind of fit in. Just kind of like magically fit in. Like it just wasn't planned at all, but man, afterwards it just made so much sense. All right, so that's it, guys. That's all I got today. Campaign diary is coming next, and then we transition into not chapter 4 and not chapter 5, but we skipped 2 chapters. We are now officially in chapter 6, and I think the campaign diary will explain all of that. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.